President Trump just about 2 hours ago announced an ultimatum to Iran. Let me just pull this up to you. This is on Truth Social here. And listen, I'll just tell you right off the top, this is about as unhinged as it gets. And this should alarm everyone. This is what President Trump said about 3 hours ago now. It actually, this was at 7:44 p.m. specific Eastern Standard Time when this was released, and that's important. President Trump writes, if Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That weird way he ends all that. I'll show you why I say this by itself is unhinged. Just barely an hour before he wrote this text here. He says the United States has blown Iran off the map. And yet their lightweight analyst, they being the New York Times, David Sanger, says that I haven't met my own goals. Yes, I have, and weeks ahead of schedule. Their leadership is gone. Their Navy and Air Force are dead. They have absolutely no defense, and they want to make a deal. I don't. We are weeks ahead of schedule. Just like their incompetent election coverage of me, the failing New York Times always gets it wrong. So number one, just on the surface of it, just as that stands right there, this is irrational. What are you talking about that you have blown Iran off the map? You have blown up a lot of things and a lot of buildings and killed a number of people, but they're hardly blown off the map as they continue to graphically demonstrate with their missile strikes and drone strikes throughout the Middle East, especially in Israel tonight. More he says, some reporter says that he didn't meet his goals, and he is so thin-skinned about this and so paranoid. He has to go out on Truth Social and put out this claim that, yes, I have. And then he literally talks like a child. They said I haven't met my goals. Yes, I have. Does that not, I'm being serious here. Doesn't that sound like a child? That's how a child would say it. Yes, I did. And then weeks ahead of schedule. What have you met weeks ahead of schedule? What were you supposed to have accomplished? What was supposed to take place? That their Navy and Air Force are dead? Did you blown up that? They have no defense? Well, they kind of do, as they demonstrate painfully, bloody, graphically, with great explosive power. That is clearly untrue. But then after insulting David Sanger and saying that you've blown Iran off the map and you've accomplished your goals, then you want to turn around and say that if Iran doesn't open the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours, then we're going to start obliterating power plants. I mean, if they're blown off the map, then how can the Strait of Hormuz be shut down? How can the Persian Gulf still be blocked off to traffic? How can they still be preventing tankers from going out? How can they still be preventing the U.S. Navy from getting to within almost 1,000 miles of Iranian batteries and Iranian shoreline? You see that this is irrational. Like I always say, to every action, there is a counteraction. Now, you may recall early in this war, when this first started, there was a desalination plant that was hit in Iran. And they said, listen, understand, if this keeps happening, we're going to hit other desalination plants in the region, that if you attack our ability to create clean water that our people need to literally survive, there are other people who need it a lot worse than we do. Iran, because of all their mountainous terrain, they actually have enough water that they can survive without any of these desalination plants. They get a very small percentage of it. Not the case with other Gulf regions like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar. They absolutely have to have these desalination plants to be able to have life-sustaining water for their population. Well, with President Trump saying that he's going to shut that off, that he's going to go after their major power plants if they don't obey within 48 hours, there has been a pretty immediate response already, almost right away from the Iranians. It's almost like they were expecting this. The spokesman for the central headquarters of Hazat Khatam al-Anbiya, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This is the official spokesman for the Iranian side. Following previous warnings, if Iran's fuel and energy infrastructure is attacked by the enemy, all energy, information technology, and desalination infrastructure belonging to the United States and the regime in the region will be targeted. So they're just saying, listen, two can play at that game. And listen, I've been telling anyone who would listen here, Iran is definitely on the lower side of the overall power dynamics, but that doesn't mean that they don't have some major cards to play. And they have been restrained so far. They have been restrained for decades. Even recently they have. But now, even here in this situation, they have been, since this war started, they have continued to be restrained, and they're hitting very specific targets. But now, if you go after their energy supply, if you go after their desalination plants, there will be a consequence. For this action, there will be a counteraction. I've actually posted on my X post, on my X account. You can see some remarkable incoming missiles. President Trump keeps talking that I've all but won this war. On our shows earlier in the day, I talked about that, how he says we've all but won this war. It's practically just a little bit of mess in the Gulf that has to be to. But then Trump also says, but you know what? It's not anything I want to worry about. I don't need to worry about that. The people in Europe can worry about that. China can worry about that. And now here he is, hours later, given an ultimatum, because that exposes the truth. He realizes that as long as that strait doesn't open up, as long as the Gulf oil doesn't get out to the global market, it's going to cause huge problems for him here. But he is literally unwell emotionally, psychologically, intellectually. These are not the actions of a rational actor. To be saying on the one hand, I've won this war. To be saying on the second hand, we've already won and there's just some mess in the Gulf. And then all of a sudden to say, it's at 6:37 p.m., I've obliterated them. There's nothing left. And then at 7:44 p.m., just barely an hour later, you issue an ultimatum. The question is, what is the armed forces going to do? Because he has control of our armed forces. If he gives this order, they're almost certain to follow it, even as foolish as it would be. Now, fortunately, we have 48 hours, so people have a chance to start talking about this. And hopefully that means leaders in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, in Israel. You guys don't want Iran to make good on this. Those videos, go look at my X account. You can see some of the shots that are coming through there. All these claim that the Iranian missile and ability to strike targets in the region is all been eliminated. It's self-evidently untrue. Those missiles are coming in. You can see some air defense missiles going up. Most of them are missing. Some of them aren't even getting attacked at all. And these things are coming in hitting pinpoint accuracy. You don't want them having that kind of pinpoint accuracy on desalination plants in countries, our allies, that never wanted this war. Certainly the people didn't want it. When they don't have enough water to drink, and you will be putting their lives seriously at risk. This is a very, very serious situation here, friends. They're not going to give you something that they offered before war, now after you've done all this stuff, to get you out of hot water. There's no reason for them to do that. And there's every reason to think that after 22 days, they're not going to suddenly fall apart. This is a country that knows how to suffer and has a lot in the past. And now I think maybe President Trump is either recognizing the danger to the United States and to our economy, and that he's losing the ability to keep that price of oil below $100 a barrel. Or it's just as simple that he is losing cognitive capability. This is an acknowledgement that these actions are not normal. These are not things that a rational person would do. And I know it's hard to see because oftentimes President Trump he's made his whole shtick, his whole brand is on being irrational, at least acting that way. It's one thing if it's an act. It's another thing if he genuinely doesn't have control, and it's hard to tell the difference. But now that we're talking consequences that have life and death consequences and results for other people, it has got the U.S. into a war it can't militarily win. We can't. The fact that we've even tried to do this on the cheap with air power alone without having any kind of ground component just plunged us into an unwinnable situation. We can't just manufacture a ground force, an army out of thin air. And even if we could, it would be suicidal because all the advantages would go to the defense there. So that's not even on the table. Well, now President Trump is coming to this conclusion, or he's just not able to make rational decisions anymore. And listen, the vice president, the cabinet, they're going to have to start giving some serious consideration, starting probably right now, but certainly tomorrow. Is it time for the 25th Amendment? For the safety and security of our country, it may be time to take that incredibly difficult move. But we're at that point, folks. Loyalty or not, you can't be loyalty to the man, especially if he's losing the ability to cognitively make decisions for the life and death of our country. If it's apparent that he is dangerous to everyone, do not think that Iran doesn't mean what they say. They'll hit those targets, and they can. This could be catastrophic for the region. But we've got to get this under control here, or this thing could spiral way out of control. So that's where we are right now, folks. Just wanted to bring this to your attention. It's kind of a short show tonight, but there is a lot going on, and the danger is very high right now. So you deserve to know the truth. And this one is really uncomfortable and very unpleasant, but it's something you need to know.